Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, there is uneasy quiet in Zimbabwe as the country waits for the Electoral Commission to announce results from the first presidential election since Robert Mugabe's ouster last year. Those results have just started coming in. We hear from our correspondent on the ground. Also in DR Congo, ex-rebel leader Jean-Pierre Bemba officially launches his bid for the presidency. He's pitting himself against current leader Joseph Kabila, just announcing his intention just a day after returning to the country, having spent a decade behind bars in The Hague. He's been acquitted of war crimes charges. And Nigeria's president's planning on heading to the UK for a 10-day holiday. His camp says it's just a routine break, but the announcement comes amidst ongoing challenges to Muhammadu Buhari's fitness to run the country. We take a closer look. But first, Zimbabwe is waiting for the results of who will be its next president. The Electoral Commission has not long ago started reading out the outcome from Monday's election. It comes after a day after a police crackdown on street clashes claimed 6 lives. The country was on tenterhooks throughout Thursday as it waited for the results. Both President Emmerson Mnangagwa's ruling ZANU-PF party and the opposition MDC, headed by Nelson Chamisa, had earlier already declared their own victories. Tensions over fatal demonstrations on Wednesday saw the MDC's headquarters raided by police on Thursday. Chamisa is reportedly due to be investigated for incitement to violence. His camp alleges that Mnangagwa's team held up releasing results because it was trying to fix the vote. Well, for a closer look at where things stand at the moment, we're joined by Aisha Ishmael, our correspondent on the ground. Aisha, the Electoral Commission has started to read out its results. How are things looking?
Well, the Electoral Commission started a few minutes ago reading out the results, and what the chairperson did say was that they are going to be announcing the president tonight. She made it clear that there are 10 provinces. They will be reading out the results of all provinces, but right now there's one province result still outstanding. The first province that was read out was the capital, Harare, and in the capital, Nelson Chamisa is leading by a far margin. She is busy reading out the other provinces right now. It's going fairly slowly, but she did say that by tonight, the people of Zimbabwe will know who the president of Zimbabwe will be.
Now, this crackdown on protesters that we saw earlier this week, we heard that President Mnangagwa says that he reached out to Chamisa to try and diffuse some of these tensions. If he wasn't behind the crackdown by police, does that suggest some kind of division within the ruling party over how to deal with some of the protests that we saw over the wait for results?
Well, it's very interesting that you're mentioning the fact that President Mnangagwa said that he had reached out to Nelson Chamisa. I personally posed that question to Nelson Chamisa at a press conference earlier, and Chamisa said he had had no conversation and no contact with Emmerson Mnangagwa at all about the violence that happened yesterday. And he said that they did not speak, he was not in contact with him, and so they did not discuss what happened, and there was no reaching out, so to speak. But it would appear as if we also asked the question at the press conference as to who called in the army. Why did the police not deal with this matter? And at an earlier press conference, the police said that the police had called in the army because they were not able to deal with the protesters. Now, these were unarmed protesters yesterday. These were people who had stones, and they were pelting some of the police, but they were certainly not a big threat for the army to come in and to use live ammunition.
Thanks very much. Aisha Ishmael, therefore, is keeping an eye on developments in Zimbabwe as it waits to find out who its next president will be. Well, in DR Congo, ex-rebel leader Jean-Pierre Bemba is officially launching his bid for the presidency. On Thursday, he made a bold move that pit himself against current leader Joseph Kabila by filing papers at the Electoral Commission in Kinshasa. Now, all this came a day after Bemba returned to the country, having spent a decade behind bars. He's back home following his acquittal on war crimes charges by the International Criminal Court back in June. Our Thomas Nicolon tells us more.
Bemba was in the Electoral Commission for more than 4 hours on Thursday. When he got out, he said that he first enrolled as a voter and then registered as a candidate for the presidential election. He then talked for more than 2 hours with the president of the Electoral Commission.
We had a long discussion because our party, the MLC, had several questions and concerns regarding the electoral process, regarding the voting machines. I think he understood the legitimacy of our concerns. He promised to hold more talks with the MLC and other political parties that ask for them. We hope that during these future talks, we will obtain positive answers, but he was open to dialogue. The aim is to have transparent and credible elections. That is our main concern.
It is not clear, however, if Jean-Pierre Bemba will be allowed to run. He could be excluded from the race due to a witness tampering conviction by the International Criminal Court. On Thursday, he declared that he was not worried about this. My legal experts, he said, will settle this issue when the time is right.
Thomas Nicolon there for us. Now, Nigeria's president is planning on heading to the UK for a 10-day holiday. Muhammadu Buhari's camp says it's just a routine break, but the announcement does come amidst ongoing challenges to the 75-year-old's fitness to run the country after he spent 5 months in London seeing doctors there last year. Now, Buhari's running for re-election next February, and his bid is already facing many hurdles. Claims that he's too old and concerns about his health have been compounded by a string of defections from his ruling party by top figures. This has been made a bad week with the Senate president and a prominent northern governor quitting the APC for the opposition PDP. Our Sam Olukoya tells us more.
Within the last week, they've lost 3 governors in Kwara State, Benue State in central Nigeria, and in Sokoto State in the far north. And in 2 of these states, in at least 2 of these states, a number of legislators from these states have also defected from the ruling party to the main opposition party, the APC, sorry, the PDP. And we've also seen the Senate president leaving the party for the PDP.
And how big a loss is this to the PDP?
To the APC, the ruling party, it's quite a big loss. I mean, to start with, it means the opposition now controls the National Assembly. The Speaker of the House is sympathetic to the PDP. The Senate president has defected, so effectively, the opposition will be able to block whatever moves the president wants to make at the National Assembly. But there are suspicions that the ruling party may attempt to impeach both the Speaker and the Senate president. We don't know how this will come about, but the suspicions are very, very strong that the ruling party will try to do this in order to curtail the power of the main opposition.
Someone to call you there for us. Now, in Guinea, only a little over a quarter of high school students passed their 2018 final year exams. It's the country's worst ever baccalaureate results. Political instability, lack of resources, and repeated strikes that forced schools to close are just some of the obstacles pupils faced this year. Our correspondent tells us more.
Stay-at-home mum Aisetu is busy with household chores, but since her son Mohammed failed his baccalaureate exam, there's tension in the air at home.
Seriously, it's really disappointing. In his school, only 1 passed. We don't even know what happened this year. I'm very disappointed. I even cried because private school here is so expensive that you don't know how you'll afford it. even
Grappling with a high failure rate, disappointed parents and families have started to doubt if the exam results are legitimate.
The exams were held in a hurry. It was such a rush. How many papers have they marked? I hope we'll see the real results now, because these are not the real results.
The 26% pass rate, the lowest on record, has sparked controversy. Long teacher strikes disrupted the school year, but unions accuse the authorities of purposely failing candidates to avoid saturating universities. Others point to the recent reform that awards the baccalaureate based on final exam results only and abolished the grade point average system. Allegations the government has yet to react to. The reasons behind the poor results are tenfold, according to this academic researcher.
There were disturbances like the strike and other political reasons. There is corruption. There is the quality of the teachers. It's not just the students we evaluated the whole system.
This year's poor results have already caused a rush in summer school sign-ups in this high school in the suburbs of Conakry.
Of course, we want to be part of the future university students. We prefer to prepare ourselves as early as possible.
Suspicions of fraud and corruption had already tainted the 2018 baccalaureate exam before the results were even published.
Well, that's it for Eye on Africa for now. Thanks for joining us. Do so again. Take care.